So I recently saw that Microsoft is going to be purchasing Activision Blizzard, and I know the main thing people are going to be talking about is the fact that the current heads of Activision Blizzard cultivated a very hostile work environment and a terrible place to work, and that the fact that they're probably going to be leaving the company with golden parachute, like tens of millions of dollars in money that they're gonna leave with, and they don't really deserve that kind of money to be leaving the company with because of the way that they managed and treated their employees. But that's not the main thing I want to talk about because, like I said, a bunch of people will be talking about this. It's not our topic. I was talking about the fact that Microsoft was able to buy Activision Blizzard in the first place. As some of you might know, back in the late 90s, Microsoft had installed Internet Explorer on all their sort of OS devices, and there was a big lawsuit about Netscape Navigator saying that this sort of was unfair business practices because it constituted a monopoly on the way of accessing the internet for most users. And Microsoft lost this lawsuit and was forced to split themselves up into two separate companies. And the reason why I bring this up is the fact that this was a time when regulation standards still existed to an extent, where companies had to be afraid of who they bought and when they bought them because of the fact that competition needed to exist in the market. And another interesting note is that at one point in time, Microsoft actually had to bail out Apple and sort of give them a whole bunch of money just because of the fact that they're afraid that if Apple went out of business, a lot of regulatory agencies would start looking into whether or not Microsoft had a monopoly. And now you start thinking about how it is nowadays, where not only can Microsoft sort of buy a major game development studio and one of the biggest ones on the planet, and then people don't bat an eye anymore, but also how with a lot of these sort of big purchases that have been going on around recently has really sort of strangled a lot of the market space, and it's really sort of collapsing what sort of games can be made, what sort of games big publishers are going to make, and how they're going to be distributed. And there's a lot of reasons for why this really occurred. So you sort of had the big reason that a lot of people point to is the fact that the iPhone App Store, that Apple sort of showed off to a lot of the industry that you can have a completely walled garden environment, a marketplace where you can completely control who can sell in that market space, and that people aren't going to raise an alarm and go be up in arms and sort of bring up lawsuits to the regulatory commissions. You've had a couple of lawsuits from things like Epic tried to file a lawsuit to try and disrupt this, but that's probably not going to go much of anywhere. And it's just sort of a weird future that we're going to have with our technology and our market space. There's going to be fewer and fewer companies that can exist within these spaces. And I wouldn't be surprised if in a couple of years there's one or two major development companies that are going to be left, and everyone else is going to be subsidiary of one or two major studios.